The Congress of Russian Farmers today demanded an explanation from the government. The Russian State Commission has released its results on the investigation into the participation of the Communist Party in the preparations for the August coup d'etat. Lebanese mercenaries are fighting in the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, according to reports. In Crimea, signatures are being collected for a referendum. France is preparing for the visit by President Boris Yeltsin, and the International Economic Forum has completed its work in Davos. This is the Channel 1 Television Evening News. I'm Pavel Kasparov. Good evening. The Association of Russian Farmers, Peasant Farm Workers, and Agricultural Cooperatives is holding its Congress in Moscow. Today, the work began with a conflict, lively discussing the report on the government expenditures to peasants last year and failing to find answers to many burning questions. The delegates of the Congress demanded a direct dialogue with the Russian leadership. It was planned that the Congress today would discuss the plan for farm development proposed by the association's leadership. However, the majority of delegates were not enthusiastic about it. There is no time for theoretical quarrels when no practical issues have been resolved. Prices are terribly high on everything, on materials, construction materials, technology. Taxes are above our ability to pay. Farmers cannot stand on their own 2 feet in these conditions. After an unplanned break, the delegates decided to figure out what to do next, and then Yegor Gaidar spoke. He managed to cool passions and even receive applause with his announcement that farmers will retain their credit advantages. The government supported many of the farmers' demands, including freeing their children from army service. The Vice Premier says that a government decree for this is being prepared. However, it's quite possible that the young people on the farms will have to defend their own farms in cases of robbery and arson. Farmers have demanded the right to use firearms. To post a militiaman at every farm is impractical and too expensive. So if I have a gun under my pillow, so to speak, I will sleep much easier. The Vice Premier received this demand with understanding as well and promised to create an operations group to fight racketeering. The government will support the farm movement, according to Gaidar, although fears of conflicts and adventurism in the mass movement to farm system remain. The government lacks sufficient resources to fight these phenomena. The Congress resumes tomorrow. Today, representatives of the legislative and executive power of Russia met today again to discuss the process of economic reform. The result is a decree adopted by the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet on social protection of the population and price formation on several types of goods. The decree was adopted yesterday, but it clearly demands attention today. Analyzing the process of reform, the meeting decided to repeal the value-added tax on income from food establishments. However, this concerns only those which are financed from the state budget. That is, university cafeterias, hospitals, kindergartens, and other social and cultural facilities. A new tax rate was established on the value added to the sale of flour, pasta and grain products, milk, cottage cheese, and butter. Now the rate is 15%. But this does not apply to enterprises doing industrial processing of these goods. Ruslan Khazbalatov believes that these measures will permit the reduction in price of food for underprivileged consumers. However, to provide these benefits, it will cost the government 20 to 30 billion rubles from the revenue portion of the budget. This will require reducing expenditures, which could affect subsidies to the underprivileged. So it is a vicious circle. And there is another prognosis: a jump in inflation, further devaluation of the ruble, price increases, and possibly leading to a barter economy. Time will tell what good will come to the population from this government decision, but for now, there is a difference of opinion even in the parliament, where some consider the step a retreat from the planned course of reform. Some Supreme Soviet members yesterday called it this way: 1 step forward, 2 steps back. One way or another, the first correction in the government's economic reform course has been made. At the same time, the personnel of the Sklifosovsky Institute in Moscow again held a warning strike today. It began at 9 a.m. and caused a huge traffic jam on the Garden Ring Road in the capital. For 3 hours, the clinic provided no emergency health care. ambulance crews were warned ahead of time and took patients to other hospitals. In this way, the medical personnel of the Institute hoped to attract attention of the city and federal government officials onto their problems. Our program has already reported on the activity of the Ambulance Workers' Strike Committee. The main demands of the doctors are increased salaries, insurance against job-related disease, creating proper working conditions. For 4 months, the demands have not been met, and according to the medics, the officials refuse even to have dialogue with them. Today, the professors, after the price and salary increases, receive 1,200 rubles. These are first-class specialists who save lives every day, but nonetheless, it was not money that was the impetus for these extreme measures. The work conditions have not changed in our hospitals, and it has become dangerous for patients to come for help to our institute and to other healthcare facilities in the capital. I think the solution to this problem may be the unification of all medical workers in Moscow and maybe the whole country. To continue the report we've just seen, we can say that the representatives of the strike committee were invited after the strike to the Moscow City Council Committee on Healthcare to resolve the conflict. The leadership of the former KGB played one of the most key roles in the preparation and conducting of the August coup. This was the announcement made at the parliamentary hearings on the coup by the chairman of the State Committee investigating the causes and events of the putsch. Documents prove that the preparation of the coup was going on since the fall of 1990. This is confirmed by the events in Lithuania and in Moscow during the Russian Congress of People's Deputies. The chairman of the commission, Sergei Stepashin, noted that the highest level leadership received disinformation from the KGB on the supposed necessity to declare a state of emergency. It was a fact that most KGB workers did not obey anti-constitutional orders. The experts generally talked about the facts of the past, but the people's deputies are more concerned with the current situation. How many informers are there in social and democratic organizations? How many in the parliament? These questions remain without an answer. Specialists believe justifiably that the law must be the only basis for their resolutions. Parliamentarians believe that the absence of a legislative act regulating the activities of special services and parliamentary control over them provides fertile soil for future violations. We are convinced that the final result in several years, this agency could turn again into an all-powerful organization which the entire people will fear, and that the parliament will lose control over this super-organization. Therefore, today it is so important to establish parliamentary control. Since we're talking about the KGB, I think you'll be interested that Oleg Kalugin has become the director of the first joint venture of former CIA and KGB agents formed in Moscow. The firm will specialize in political risk analysis for investors and also in preventing industrial espionage. Kalugin will represent the firm on the entire territory of the CIS and will use in his work his network of former KGB agents, of which he has many since he was the former counterintelligence head of the USSR KGB. The Moscow government today considered appeals from various organizations and appeals regarding the parade planned through the center of the capital on February 8th and 9th. The decision was made that since demonstrations are becoming expensive, the organizers of meetings and parades, regardless of where they are held, will have to pay for the security, the extra work of public transportation, and also cleaning streets and other services. However, the organizers of the meetings coming up this weekend will not have to pay. They have an exception. On February 8th, the Democratic Movement Freedom will hold a meeting on Manege Square, and the organizers said that the parade will not take place because the organizers are not prepared to pay the city. For the same reason, the Moscow government has limited the February 9th meeting of the Live Circle movement to the area around the White House, and the Workers of Russia meeting to Manege Square. Now about the situation in Tataria, about the possibility of a powerful alternative system of administration in that republic. This is the session of the legally elected Supreme Soviet of Tatarstan. On February 1st and 2nd in Kazan, there was a Kurultai of the Tatar people. They chose a Milli Mejlis, which is a national parliament. And so, in the meeting hall of the Supreme Soviet, there was an extremely unusual situation for the Republic. There were two parliamentary leaders, the President of the Supreme Soviet, Farid Muhammedshin, and the newly elected head of the Milli Mejlis, Tolgat Abdulin, who is also a People's Deputy of Tatarstan and who until a week ago was the Deputy General Director of the Ilyabush Auto Factory. We believe that one of the reasons that the rights of Tatars are not being guaranteed is the insufficient status of the Republic.